Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this series, we're going over Leetcode problems, and today we'll be looking at valid parentheses Leetcode number 20. This is a stack problem, and the problem states given a string S containing just the characters, and they give us our brackets. Determine if the input string is valid. An input string is valid if open brackets must be closed by the same type of brackets. Open brackets must be closed in the correct order, and every closed bracket has a corresponding open bracket at the same time. So what we're doing is we're just matching our brackets, and they can be in any order. We have open, close, but they must match, right? So like this one does not match, or this one is valid because there is an inner brackets and outer brackets, but they each match each other. And this one does not match. So we will look at that. Now, this is a stack problem because the way that we're going to keep track of what we've seen is to put all of our brackets on a stack. And as we iterate through, we're going to check, is it a closed bracket or is it an open bracket? And if it's a open bracket, if it's a closed bracket, we want to make sure that the last item on the stack is matching what we have, right? Otherwise, we can just keep adding that open brackets to our stack. Now, if you're using Java, stack is a legacy object, so we're going to use a deck instead, but it'll be used in the same way as a stack. I'm just going to call it stack to make it easier. Okay, and then I'm going to make a hash map that is going to hold our closed brackets and our open brackets, and you'll see how this is useful in a little bit. The other way you can do this is instead of creating a map for this, you can just put in like a helper method or if statement in your logic that checks compares them. We'll go ahead and add that map, and that'll be a map of characters to character. And the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to make our closing brackets our key. And the opening bracket our value. And we're going to do that because in our logic, we'll end up checking to see if that's going to help us determine if it's a closing bracket and if the value matches what we're expecting. You can probably fast forward through this. Okay, so now that that hash map is created, we'll go ahead and iterate through our string. We'll make it a character array. Okay. Now, when I said we're going to use that map to check if we have a closing bracket, the way that we're going to do that is by checking to see if our map contains key. And if it contains this key, that means that we are dealing with a closing bracket, and that means that we should have an opening bracket on the stack that matches that. So first we're going to check if our stack is empty. Because if our stack is empty and we have a opening bracket that is not a valid parentheses. And then the next thing we'll check is if it's not empty, we're going to want to check the last item off the stack. So we'll pop that. And the last item on the stack should match we what we have in our map as being the value for our opening bracket, or sorry, for our closing bracket that we have. And so this is asking, is the stack empty and does it match? And if any of those are not true, we'll return false. Open this up just to make it easier to read. Okay. We'll return false, otherwise we're going to continue on, and that means that we have, if our map does not contain that key, then it's a opening bracket, and if we have an opening bracket, we'll want to push that onto our stack. And then this is just going to continue to iterate through our array. At this point, we have a character array. And once we're done with that, we're going to return the stack. The stack should be empty. So if it's not, our return statement will return that. Otherwise, it will return true for us. Go ahead and run that. And as you see, our test cases have passed. So this is one way to handle that. This is an O of n time complexity. We are only iterating through our stack once. And we do create the extra hash map here, but it's not that big of a deal because we only have 3 key values here. It's not like we are creating a lot more items, but we do create a stack, we do create the map. Our map is so tiny it shouldn't matter. So that is all for this problem. If you have any questions or you solved it in a different way, feel free to comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.